Magandang araw sa inyong lahat, and I hope that all of you are safe and dry. My name is Reburon, and I am tasked to discuss about the classical approaches to organization and management for our class, EDAD 303. One of my group mates will be discussing about the first pillar of the classical approach to management, which is the scientific approach. I, on the other hand, will be presenting a critique of the scientific management approach, as well as explain the second and the third pillars of the classical approach, which are the administrative management and the bureaucratic approach. Before I start my report, let me first present my session objectives. My aim is to help you understand the second and the third pillar of the classical approach to organization and management. With that being said, at the end of my pre-recorded video lecture, it is expected that you will have a thorough understanding and comprehension about the administrative management and the bureaucratic management approach. In our session together, we will scrutinize the merits and the demerits of the different classical approaches to management, and hopefully, I can assist you in finding a management approach that is best fit for your organization. As promised, we will begin our discussion with a simple review of the strengths and the weaknesses of the scientific management approach that was discussed by my groupmate. Let us begin our session together by understanding the strengths or the benefits of the scientific management approach. Now, according to employers, this scientific management approach is good for the organization because it improves the production of the employees, because it makes them efficient and more effective in attainment of the organizational goals. Aside from that, this scientific management approach to organization also creates a culture of industrial peace between the workflow or the workforce and the managers or the administrators. And lastly, this is also good for the viewpoint of the employers because there is also increased in the quality of output, because in scientific management approach, we try to make our employees as specialized as possible with regards to the service they provide. There are also benefits of the scientific management approach in terms of the employees. Number one is that they are given better working conditions because of the studies that we do to improve their workflow processes and their environmental conditions. Aside from that, they receive more remuneration because of the increase in efficiency. And lastly, we also improve their standards of living because aside from giving them remuneration for the efficient work that they do, we also create a respectful and appreciative environment for them because of the usage of the scientific management approach. However, the scientific approach is not without criticisms. For employers, they say that the scientific approach is difficult to employ or it is difficult to introduce because of the many steps that are needed for the scientific management to be effective. Aside from that, it is also seen as only suitable for large-scale organizations, and for small, medium enterprises, the scientific management approach is believed to be not effective. And lastly, in the scientific management approach, we heavily rely on expert opinions, and majority of the people promulgating the scientific management approach are from the Western countries, and maybe the concepts that they are teaching us with the use of the scientific management approach are not actually bespoke or applicable in the Filipino setting. Aside from that, in the viewpoint of the employees, the scientific management approach is criticized because it inculcates the fear of retrenchment. Once an employee is not doing well or is not efficient, the scientific management approach says that that person should be fired. Aside from that, it also breeds the lack of initiative and creativity because the employers, or the employees I should say, will be heavily reliant on the instruction of the experts. And lastly, the people will also have that to each his own mentality. In the scientific management approach, we have the mental revolution, wherein we try to create a respectful environment between the administration and the workforce. However, between and among the employees, there is a competition that is happening. So basically, what will happen is that these employees will have the to each his own mentality, or you scratch your back, I'll scratch mine. Aside from that, the scientific management approach exploits the laborer because they are being persuaded or encouraged to work harder for more production, to yield more products. However, we are not treating them as humans anymore. Instead, in the scientific management approach, the employees are seen as machines that have many deliverables. The second pillar of the classical approach to organization and management is the administrative management approach. According to Henry Fayol, it is also known as the structural theory of organization. And contrary to the scientific management approach, this administrative management approach is more concerned in the entire range of managerial performances, and it is focused on the top and middle level managers. According to this approach, both knowledge and experience are quintessential when it comes to managing the organization. And Fayol also stated that management is both an activity and it is also universal in nature. Fayol also forwarded well-defined functions of management, which we will be talking about later on. Now let's try to understand why Fayol stated that management is an activity. According to Fayol, management is what a manager does. Thus, that makes management an activity because it involves planning, organizing, coordinating, commanding, and controlling. Aside from that, Fayol believes that management is universally applicable. Whatever enterprise that we have, whatever organization, type of organization that we have, all the activities that are embedded in management can also be applicable or can be translatable to the enterprise that you also have. Now, according to Fayol, there are actually 5 activities that are embedded in management. Number 1 is planning, wherein we develop strategies or landscapes for the achievement of our organizational goals. Aside from that, we are expected to organize or align the activities of the organization and coordinate or unify or integrate or synchronize all the efforts of the workforce and the management for the attainment of that goal. However, there are 2 distinct activities that are forwarded by Fayol, which are a little connected to one another: commanding and controlling. When we speak about commanding, it entails supervision, direction, and guidance of the subordinates in their daily work to make sure that what they are doing is aligned towards the organizational goal, that what they are doing is part of the plan. However, when we talk about controlling, it is observing and reporting deviations that are done by the workforce or the management that are not according to plan. So that's the big difference between controlling and commanding. Henry Fayol believed that the administrative management approach uses 14 principles for it to become effective. Number 1 is that there should be specialization of work because mastery breeds quality. There should also be discipline because when we do not give discipline to our workforce, we spoil the whole organization. There should also be authority, and people in the organization should respect the position even if they cannot respect the individual who is holding the position. There should also be unity of command, or there should only be one boss. There should also be unity of direction, or we only have one specific or ultimate goal so that the workforce and administration will not be confused as to what goal to chase. There should also be subordination of individual interest, meaning the organizational objectives come first before our personal interests. And there should also be remuneration policy, wherein we give what is due and we give the remuneration that is deserved by the workforce depending on the type or the quality of work that they forward. Henry Fayol believed that there should be centralization of the decision-making or policy-making when it comes to organization. He also believes that there should be a scalar chain of command, wherein the management creates a policy or creates a decision, and it is trickled down towards the grassroots. There should also be order, wherein individual workers know their place in the organization, and they stay where they are needed. There should also be equity, and everyone should be treated with fairness, with justice, and they should be also given equal opportunities for growth and development. Aside from that, there should be personnel tenure, wherein we try to give them permanent positions because it's very hard to find dedicated, effective, and efficient employees. There should also be initiative, and people should be taught to do what needs to be done even if they are not being told to. And lastly, there should also be esprit de corps, because unity, camaraderie, and cooperation is necessary for organizational success. As they always say, there is no I in team, but there is an us in victorious. There are a few strong points that were identified by Fayol when it comes to the administrative management approach. Number one is the universality of its principles, and it can be applied to whatever enterprise that you have. And aside from that, Fayol believes that managers are not born, but they are made or created. And that authority can also be delegated, but not the responsibility that comes with it. There is also a span of control of managers which is limited only to 6 employees, and that one person should only be working on one job or one work alone so that they can create a sense of expertise or specialization. There should also be a clear demarcation of the extent of one's authority from top to bottom. And lastly, Fayol stated that employees should also be informed in writing of their roles, responsibilities, and authority. However, the administrative approach has its weaknesses. Number one is that it is only applicable on the top ranks because Fayol's expertise was limited only as his role as a manager. It also does not increase the efficiency of the employees because the administrative management also only focuses on the managers. And lastly, the principle mechanizes or automates the organization because we follow template principles that were forwarded by Fayol. The third pillar of the classical approach is the bureaucratic management approach, and this was promulgated by Weber. According to Weber, strict rules should be enforced to eliminate managerial inconsistencies. Why do we need to eliminate these inconsistencies? Because Weber believes that managerial inconsistencies will only breed organizational inefficiency. And Weber also believes that there should be strict adherence to bureaucratic principles if we truly want organizational success. Weber strongly forwards that bureaucratic principles should be followed for us to attain organizational success. And what are these principles of bureaucracy? Number one is there should be proper division of work, and that all work should be distributed on the basis of specialization of each individual employee. Aside from that, there should also be clear hierarchy of authority, and that the superiors and subordinates should be clearly defined and demarcated. Aside from that, there should be systems of rules that are in place, and that these should be framed to govern all the activities that are carried out within the organization. So there should be strict adherence to these systems of rules. Aside from that, the bureaucratic principle also promulgates that there should be no personal relationship between the people in the organization. Meaning, personal relationships should be ignored and rewards should be given based on the individual efficiency of an employee. And lastly, there should also be promotion-based competence. And appointment of a position should only be given based on their individual strengths, effectiveness, and efficiency. Those are the principles of the bureaucratic management according to Weber. The bureaucratic management approach is meritorious in the sense that there is division of labor, which leads to specialization of the employees. Aside from that, it also brings forth regularity and uniformity of the quality of the work that these people do, along with the conduct of the work of the employees. Aside from that, competence is used as the sole basis for promotion and rewards or incentives. The organization is also perpetually on the move because our focus in the bureaucratic management is not on the individual, but on the office or the position. And the bureaucratic management approach puts in place a succession plan wherein if a person is not anymore able to perform his or her duties and functions, another person comes along and occupies that position to take over. Meaning, there is no lapses or there are no lags when it comes to the performance of tasks because other people are invited if a person is not anymore capable of functioning properly. The bureaucratic management approach has its weaknesses. Number one is that there is increased paper formality. We see each other in the organization as mere co-workers, and we do not develop the sense of personal attachment or friendship or camaraderie because interpersonal relationships are rejected in the bureaucratic management approach. Aside from that, this approach increases the risk of red tapeism. When we talk about red tapeism, it means that we follow or we adhere strictly to the rules and the policies of the organization, wherein there is no sense of compromise. Black will always be black and white will always be white. And what happens is that our rules and policies are not anymore flexible or they become inhumane in nature. And lastly, there is lack of initiative of the workers because the workers are not inspired anymore to be creative or to be avant-garde thinkers because of the stringent policies that we have within the organization. So those are the strengths and the weaknesses of the bureaucratic management approach to organization. And that ends my report about the classical approach to organization and management. In conclusion, I would like to remind you that the three pillars of the classical approach have their own merits and demerits, and this only goes to show that there is no single foolproof way to manage or to run an organization. It is always up to us, future educational leaders and organizational managers, to determine the method that is best suited to run or manage our organization or our institutions. We always have to remember that great educational leaders are the ones who can marry or combine the strengths of the different approaches to organization and management with the hopes of increasing the effectiveness and efficiency of all the organisms within the organization. A great educational leader is one who can aptly oversee the ecology of the whole school or the whole organization and rally all of its inhabitants towards organizational success. Before I finally end my report, I would like to leave you with words to ponder on. Is the leaf's only purpose to fall? Were we born into this world to run a cycle of eat, sleep, go to work, get promoted, and then eventually die? Or are we here to make a difference? With that being said, maraming salamat po for listening and enjoy the rest of the day.